back. Episode number 228 of the Club and Sub podcast. This week we're talking UFC Abu Dhabi. Robert Whittaker, the Reaper, taking on Reiner Derritter. Should be a banger main event. We got a decent card. I don't know how great it is for betting, but I'm excited for a daytime MMA. Can't go wrong with it ever, really. So we'll get into it in a moment. As usual, guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe, share. Help the boys out if you don't mind. And yeah, real quick, well, this past weekend we had UFC 318. Another good week for me. I ended up plus 2.92 units. That in spite of one of my bigger bets of the year just not working out. I had 4 units on Marvin Vettori at an average price of like plus 210. I also had 0.2 units on him to win by KO. That didn't work out. It seems as if Marvin's durability is just not what it once was. And he fought pretty well, but he just can't take the shots that, he once could. And like big moments kind of made the difference in the fight. They volume wise, they were pretty similar. It was kind of a back and forth brawl, but, Allen just had the way bigger moments, which kind of surprised me. I also had 3 units on Nikolai Varetenikov at 2 units at plus 122, 1 unit at plus 135. That fight almost gave me a heart attack because Nikolai made sure to make that just about as hard as humanly possible. However, ultimately, it was Dixon saying he was up 155 units Saturday. That's awesome, man. However, ultimately, Nikolai's just way better than him. Prado not at this level. He's not a welterweight either. Didn't really make much sense for him to be fighting up there. So yeah, that cashed, which was nice. I had half a unit on Robert Valentin. That he just got bombed out of there quick. I also had him in round 2 and round 3 at 0.1 units a pop, and I had round 2 TKO and round 3 TKO at 0.05 units a pop. I had a parlay for 2.32 units at minus 116 with Ryan Spann and Jimmy Crute. That cashed about as easily as it gets, which was nice to see. And then I had a 1 unit Paulo Costa plus 212. Also cashed pretty easily. Costa mostly dominated the fight. Just too big a step up in competition for Roman. So yeah, it was good. It was a good evening for me. How did you do, Alex?
Yeah, good night as well for me. Up 2.26 units. So I had a unit on Poirier at plus 120. That was obviously not great. But though I did have Poirier spread parlayed with Vettori spread to win a unit and a half. So that was nice. I had the under 2.5 rounds in
Poirier spread hit.
Yes, Poirier spread.
No,
so I had 9.5.
Oh, okay.
So hear me out though. Even the plus 9.5 spread was minus 235.
Yeah, no, I get it. I didn't realize it was 9.5. That's wild.
Yeah. So I came through the Crute under 2.5 rounds. Had 3 units on that, and then I had a small shot 0.25 units on McVeigh in round 1, and he just got subbed quick there. So good night for me.
Yeah, so it was a good night for the boys. Hopefully we can keep it going this week, although I'll have a lot less action this week, to be honest.
For sure.
But we'll jump right into it. We got Martin Budai. He's taking on Marcos Bucheka. Bucheka making his UFC debut. He is a world-class jiu-jitsu player. Started MMA only a few years ago. He's been fighting in ONE FC, where outside of losing to Rugrug, he's mostly been pretty dominant. Current odds on this fight, Bucheka is minus 300. The comeback on Budai plus 250. I honestly might play Budai. I'm thinking about it and leaning in that direction. How many times I was talking with somebody about this fight, and they were like, I feel like Bucheka is like a 2007 jiu-jitsu player teleported into modern MMA. And I agreed with that statement because, that's his game. And if he doesn't have that, he doesn't really have much. He's obviously very, very dominant in top position, probably capable of subbing anybody in top position. But his cardio looks a bit suspect to me. His striking looks pretty wild to me. Like, he's tough. He'll stand in there. He'll take shots. He'll swing big shots. But I don't think there's much process to it. He does have some nice calf kicks, but I don't think his boxing is really any good. His wrestling is okay. He's got a decent blast double, but if he doesn't hit it, he kind of just defaults to flopping to guard like a standard jiu-jitsu player.
Yeah.
And I look at this fight and look, Martin Budai, I have not been a fan of Martin Budai for much of his UFC career. I think the only time we bet him was against Shamil Gaziev, if I'm not mistaken, and that went horribly wrong. Yeah. But the truth is, Budai's got – what was that?
His only loss in the UFC.
Yeah. That was horrible, though. But the truth is, he's a big dude. He's 6-1 in the UFC. He's got way more pro MMA fights than Bucheka does, as he's younger than Bucheka, believe it or not. And, Budai's game is ugly as hell. Like, if you're a clever striker, you can kind of just outmaneuver him relatively easily. But he's massive for the division. I mean, the guy cuts like 20 pounds to make heavyweight, and he's got really good cardio, which is surprising. And he's got a pretty good clinch game. He does allegedly have a BJJ black belt, though. I mean, where it's from,
Never
who
seen it.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Decent on top. How he is on bottom or in the wrestling, we don't really know. And that's kind of like the big question in this fight, because the biggest certainty we have here is that Bucheka is the better grappler, right? Like, we know if he gets the top position on Budai, there's a pretty good chance he's going to melt Budai on top. But I don't know, man. I look at his fight with Rugerug, and I mean, Rugerug's fun. He's a great athlete. He's improving, but I don't think he's a great grappler. And Rugerug's physicality basically just led him to be able to stuff most of Bucheka's takedowns, end up in top position, and kind of just, he controlled him for a lot of that fight, which was surprising given the better grappler here was clearly Bucheka. And I'm looking at this fight, and I'm like, yeah, there's a chance that Marcus Bucheka gets a takedown early here and just runs through him and subs him easy. But then it's like, well, what's the tail risk on the Bucheka side? Because, like, I know Budai's got much better cardio. I know he's more battle tested than Bucheka is. What happens if he gets a takedown and dominates on top and slows down and then can't get Budai down? Well, he's probably going to lose. What'll probably happen is he'll try pulling guard, on failed takedown attempts and end up getting smashed by Budai on top, because Budai is pretty heavy on top. And I know a lot of the market seems to think that Bucheka can sweep him easy from bottom, but I mean, go watch this fight with Rugerug. Heavyweight sweeps aren't easy, man. These guys are so freaking large. And even in that fight, you saw him fall off the back multiple times. So I'm like, yeah, if he doesn't get a round one finish, the fight's going to get really dicey really fast. And what if Budai can just stuff his takedowns, or he instantly shoots and Budai just sprawls on top of him and he's in a front headlock with Budai sprawled on his back, like a giant man like Budai? I don't think that's going to go well for him. I think it's going to go really, really badly. So I look at the fight and I'm like, yeah, I can justify Bucheka being a favorite. He's got a lot of early finishing equity in this fight. Like I said, him being the better grappler is the biggest certainty in this fight. But at the same time, he's a jiu-jitsu specialist who's really untested against good competition, who's fighting a guy who's much bigger than him with much better cardio, who's much more experienced in MMA. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that ONE FC is in a ring. Like, he hasn't had to cage wrestle at all. Is he going to be able to take Budai down against the fence? We don't really know. And, if he can't, then he's going to have to be hitting open mat takedowns. And I'm not sure his wrestling is really good enough to do that. So, yeah, I feel like Dogfather said, I'm making the case for a local guy built like a local kebab shop, best customer. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. But, I just feel like Bucheka is, you're getting a hype tax here. You're getting a hype tax for a well-known jiu-jitsu player. It's kind of similar. And, like, I'll grant you, Bucheka's a better fighter. But you saw this happen with Lucas Barboza when he went to PFL Challenger Series. Was a big favorite. Everybody got huge sale view, bet him. And then it turned out when he couldn't just do jiu-jitsu, there was not much there. And I kind of think that's the case here. It might be enough to win, honestly. If he subs Budai early, I won't be really surprised. But I do think the price is crazy. How about you, Lags?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest, like you pointed out, the biggest uncertainty really is the defensive grappling for Budai. And, like, I feel like his takedown defense, like, just obviously, like, again, we haven't really seen it recently, but, like, I feel like his takedown defense probably is okay, though once he's flattened out, I do feel like he's probably a bit of a fish in that sense. Like, I feel like if Bucheka's on top of him, he's probably just going to have easy time, maybe finding a finish, easy holding him down. Not to mention, even in, like, the second round, like, I don't think his cardio is going to, like, be such a detriment that, like, he's not going to have success against Budai striking. Like, Budai doesn't push a huge, heavy pace to gas him out, really. So, like, in a sense, it's a bit of a soft landing, I would say, to the UFC. Like, don't get me wrong, Budai's more experienced as an MMA fighter in general, but, like, in terms of his game in general, I think it's a soft spot for him. Soft landing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we don't really know.
Right.
Moving on, though, we have got Muhammad Yaya taking on Stephen Wynn. The current price, Stephen Wynn minus 320. The comeback on Yaya plus 270. I don't have a strong opinion here. I guess my view is Muhammad Yaya is one of the worst fighters in the UFC. He's terrible. No power, not much of a grappler, kind of chinny, mid cardio. And Stephen Wynn, also not very good. Yeah, I faded him in his last fight with Jarno Aarons. I guess, the best skills in this fight, though, are just the hardware of Wynn. He's got better boxing in the pocket. He hits a lot harder. He's much more durable. I think he's the much better wrestler of the two guys here. I'm not laying the price simply because I do feel like Wynn can get outmaneuvered a bit on the feet by someone who's a clever striker. But Yaya's got okay movement, so I could see him making it competitive on that. But I just feel like it's one of those fights where the hardware gap and even the wrestling gap here is just huge in favor of Wynn, and it's going to be just Yaya's going to have to fight a perfect fight to win. So I think the price is right. I think Wynn rolls pretty easily, though. What do you think, Lex?
I guess I'll kind of see where the price goes out later in the week, but I mean, the over 1.5, I know it's a bit juicy right now, like minus 200, but that kind of interests me. I feel like this fight is going to go well.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
To be honest with you, I don't have much to say either, though. I mean, I think Wynn's a justified big favorite, though. Good generalist, decent striker, decent volume.
Yeah, he's okay. He's nothing special, in my opinion.
It doesn't take much to beat Yaya. And he's, like, to me, like, Wynn is like a UFC gatekeeper. Like, you beat him, you probably belong in the UFC.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Moving on, though, we have got Ibo Oslon taking on Billy Elakana. Ibo, big favorite here. He's minus 250 to come back on Elakana, plus 210. What do you think, Danny?
I don't think much of Ibo, quite frankly, but I think it's another one that I think it's an easy matchup for the chalk side. Like, I think Ibo probably just finds an easy early finish. I think Elakana really needs to grapple hard here to even compete, and I just don't think he's a great wrestler.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I said this to someone this week, but I feel like Ibo Oslon is Kyler Phillips minus all of the skills. He's got bad gas.
Yeah.
He's a bad grappler.
Mostly power.
He's pretty chinny. He seems like a quitter. His technical striking is pretty bad. He just comes in winging like huge shots. That might be enough, though. He's got big power, and he's got big power for like 7 minutes, and that, who knows, that could be enough here. Billy's not that good. Billy's an okay generalist, I think, though. He is tough. It took a lot for Guskov to get him out of there. That was on super short notice, and he was obviously dead gas 5 minutes in the fight. He is an Islander. Those guys seem to just be able to take shots pretty well. He's pretty good in the clinch, and I think if he could get Ibo to the clinch, he could have some success in those spots. And he's a much better grappler. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get on top of Ibo and submit him here. With that said, I just don't think Billy is really quite a UFC level fighter, and he is quite hittable, taking on a guy in Ibo with huge power. So I do understand Ibo being the favorite. Ibo is also a bit more experienced than Billy is. And obviously they're making this fight in Abu Dhabi, the A side, clearly the Ibo side here. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if I want to really get involved with Billy at the plus 210. I do just feel like Ibo, he's a favorite in every fight, and the guy really has not shown much depth to his game at all. And I sit here and I'm like, well, why can't Billy win this fight? If he doesn't die in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the fight, there's a pretty good chance he's going to win. We've already seen what happens to Ibo when he doesn't get the KO. Obviously he knocked out the Pleasure Man late, but that fight was going very sideways on him when he did knock him out. So yeah, I mean, and to me, that fight just sticks in my head. Like, the dude was getting outstruck by the Pleasure Man. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I you know what I mean? Like what? He's giving up a grappling advantage. He's probably giving up a durability advantage, and he's got like 5 minutes of cardio. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't really like, trying to think the best way to describe it. Billy's like, his strength of competition to me has just been terrible. And like, the guy looked bad against Chuck Campbell, who is like ancient and terrible. And to me, that's a pretty huge red flag in a fight like this against a fast, heavy hitter with a ton of horsepower. So I might just stay off it. But I actually, what I might do, what I was thinking I might do if the prices are decent when we get them on PPHs and legals, like maybe taking a look at the 2-3 sub for Billy and just, betting on him, maybe surviving and just playing it really small. I think that could be an interesting way to approach this fight, since I think I think Ebo's going to have a fair amount of success early, and I think that captures a fair amount of Billy's equity here. What are your thoughts there?
Well, as I was just looking for right now on Bet Online, they have 25-1 for round 2 for that, and 35-1 round 3.
Okay. Well, hopefully it gets a bit better than that. That's not terrible though.
Yep.
Lags, try giving your mic like a couple inches of space. I think you're getting a bit of staticky. You're a bit too close.
My bad.
Moving on, we got Amanda Reebas taking on Tabitha Richie. Current price, Reebas minus 168. The comeback on Richie plus 148. Bit of a mirror match in some respects. I think the line is fine personally. Where it is right now. I do think there's some equity here for Richie to, maybe get a couple takedowns and control Reebas. She does have a bad tendency to play guard. So, maybe there are versions of this fight where it looks like the Viana fight. But, Richie's wrestling isn't all that good. She can be proactive about it from time to time. But, I think she's going to have a tough time getting in very easily against Reebas here. The striking, I don't think, is close at all. Reebas just much, much better striker. And much more volume, much more accurate, much better shot selection. I think if Reebas gets on top, she's more dangerous than Richie is there as well. So I think her being a favorite is fair, but I think we all know that Tabitha Richie has magic powers, magic split powers especially. Her style does make fights ugly and grindy. I could see her putting on the Angela Hill performance here, where she just kind of forces a barroom brawl. Maybe Reebas gets wobbled at some point and she lands a couple opportunistic takedowns. So yeah, I think it's a close fight. I don't really see a lot of ways for Reebas to really pull ahead and dominate the fight. And I do see some ways that Richie could backdoor it. I guess for me though, I just think Reebas is the much more skilled fighter though. So I do think minus 150 to 180 is probably fine. What do you think?
See, I think as we're getting there, the minus 180, 200 range on Reebas. To your point there's no real skill where Reebas is going to pull ahead here. I think it's going to be a close fight. And to me, it's a close fight in the striking. I think Richie, pretty fast, has good footwork, can land a few takedowns to your point as well. Give me plus 160, plus 170 on Richie. That interests me for a small shot.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Moving on, we got a good fight here. It's a shame this fight wasn't booked a few years ago. We got Damon Blackshere taking on Davy Grant. Current price on Blackshere is minus 310. The comeback on Grant is plus 250, 260. What do you think here, Legs?
It's another one actually that the dog interests me. To be honest with you, though, the line seems kind of nuts unless you think Blackshere just gets easy takedowns, able to control Davy, find a finish. Don't get me wrong, Davy's defensive grappling is not the best, but I think he can definitely hold his own in terms of the striking. I think Davy's probably at a durability advantage here, definitely at a power advantage here as well. So, again, another one that small shot on the dog interests me. Plus 240, plus 250.
Yeah. I would have bet Davy for a lot at this price a couple years back, honestly, because I don't think it's really on paper all that bad a fight for Davy. He's the better boxer in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's a lot more clever than Blackshere is. Much better at getting in and out of range. Good leg kicker. He's a decent wrestler himself. Although I do think even in his prime, Blackshere has a distinct striking advantage in this fight, or wrestling advantage in this fight, and a distinct jiu-jitsu advantage. So that's probably his biggest edge. The issue is just Davy, he's 40 now, he's been doing the damn thing forever. And I love Davy. He's a true vet. He always shows up with a good game plan. He knows how to keep himself in fights that are tough for him. But I do think, Blackshere's wrestling and cardio and jiu-jitsu is probably a bit too much for him at this point. I still think Davy can compete on the feet here. If Blackshere fucks around, he might find out. If you know what I mean, if he decides he wants to strike with him. But I don't know, man.
So maybe, Davy's big enough of a dog. Maybe we get a decent plus 3.5. I see Davy competing here. I don't see him getting finished. It's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd rather just bet the money line than plus 3.5, though. I don't really like betting plus 3.5s on underdogs, to be honest, because it's at least with a favorite, you build in the finishing aspect of it. But it's if you think they're going to win a round, why not just take the, why not just take the money line?
Right. example on that would be like a Marvin Vettori, for instance. Like he's a plus 180, plus 200 dog. Last week, his plus 3.5 was probably like what, minus 140?
And it lost.
50, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that was probably a good bet. I mean, it was competitive in spots, but it did lose. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel what you're saying. I do think Davey can compete here. I just feel like the athleticism difference at this point in their careers is pretty wide. And it's also like, it's men's 135. We know it's all going to go for Davey like much sooner than later. So it's like, I don't want to get involved at the plus 250 and then he turns into like, he looks minus plus 2000, he shows up, knee sleeves, looking movement gone and everything.
That's fair.
So
I just won't really give say his durability is like gone until I see it really. Cause again, we've seen, don't get me wrong. He's been knocked down before, just hasn't been finished though.
I don't even mean durability so much as like his movement. He's so reliant on like good movement and good footwork. And, if that goes, he's probably in a world of trouble,
Yep, that's fair.
Moving on, we got Carlos Leal taking on Muslim Salakov. Current price, Leal minus 500. Comeback on Salakov, plus 375. The fight's obviously being set up for Leal to commit another murder here. I do think early in this fight, Muslim can compete. I do. He's the better technical striker of the two, and he's still pretty fast early in fights. The issue is, like, if he doesn't find a knockout in round one, I just think he's completely boned, more or less. Like, and even in round one, Leal's pressure and durability, he might just be able to stay in his face and like break him down and win the round anyway. So like it's not even a situation where like I'd favor Muslim in round one, but I do think minutes will be competitive early. The biggest issue for me is like Muslim's cardio was bad at his peak. It's looked really bad as of late. And Leal's cardio, look, the guy is on all kinds of medicine, man. Leal's cardio looks insane. He's got insane durability. He hits hard. He throws a lot of volume. He's got big power. I don't know, man. I think this is Muslim's like round one KO or bust, and I'm inclined to think the line is right. Maybe even could be a little bit wider, honestly. What do you think?
Yeah, no, completely agree with you as well. Like, I think this should be a great fight for Leal. His pressure moving forward, landing the bigger shots here. Yeah, this should be easy work for Leal.
Curious to hear your take here. We got Bryce Mitchell taking on Saeed Nurmagomedov. Current price, Mitchell's a small favorite, currently minus 115. Comeback on Nurmagomedov, minus 105. What do you think?
I think this is actually it's a good fight for Bryce. I think people will be talking, obviously the move down in weight to bantamweight. I think it's a good move for him just because he's not super physical, and these guys at 135, a lot of them, they aren't super physical themselves, especially in this matchup specifically with Saeed. Like, Bryce is going to be the minute winner here predominantly. To me, it's like if Saeed doesn't catch him in a choke or land a big shot on the feet, I think Bryce is going to be landing the minutes. Like, he can stay competitive on the feet as well, land the takedowns, hold Saeed down. I think you win decision. To me, Bryce's decision only should be like in like the minus 185 kind of range. Like, if it goes 15,
I think like the minus 400 range, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, honestly, if it's minus 185, I'll bet it. I will bet it. I haven't bet Bryce yet. I'm considering it. It does feel like a fight where maybe I'm putting a little bit too much stock in what happened last fight against Gene Silva. A killer at 145.
Yeah.
I don't like how easily it is to get hold of Bryce's neck, though. And it's not just a Silva fight. He's done it in other parts of his career. And obviously, that, Saeed's got one of the best guillotines in the game. So, like, I normally am the guy disrespecting guillotines, but I do think that threat's going to be there, all fight here, And I would be surprised if he doesn't get at least, like, one or two deep attempts, Yeah. And then obviously he's fairly dangerous on the feet as well. Janky and no process, but dangerous. But having said that, it's like, how high can you put Saeed finish here? That's the real question. Because I think he's going to get rinsed if he's not, if he gets taken down off the guillotine, he's not going to get up, or he's going to give his back up in all likelihood. That's probably what's going to happen. I think Mitchell should rinse him on the mat. I do, and look like a big favorite if he doesn't get, submitted in this fight or knocked out. My biggest concerns are, one, I didn't like the way he approached the guillotine defense against Silva either of the times he attempted it. he knew he was setting it up, but he still went for that single leg anyway. Other than that, I'm also a bit concerned he's coming down to 135. His cardio looked pretty bad last fight, and now he's coming down a weight class. He was a big featherweight, and now moving down to 135 seems like a somewhat weird move to me. I will say I think Saeed is a fairly soft landing, to use your term from earlier, for this kind of fight and someone with his style. It's really just like he needs to watch his neck, and if he can do that, and if his cardio lasts for 15, he should win this fight easy. And he also has the very distinct benefit of fighting a guy who's got worse cardio than he has, you know? So the cardio shouldn't matter all that much. I worry a lot about the guillotine. I'm still running through scenarios in my head, thinking about how I want to play it, but I'll probably be there on Bryce, honestly, because like I really can't get to like a Saeed finish being like a 40% outcome, you know? It's probably more like 20, 25%. And if that's the case, like Bryce has got to be at least like minus 150 in this fight, you know?
Yeah, and to our report about the decision only, though, so just the decision lines in general, Mitchell by decision is plus 170 and Saeed's plus 350. So
it's probably going to be about, what is that? 2-1, 2.5-1. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Moving on, we have got Nikita Krylov. He's back, taking on Bogdan Guskov. Current price, Krylov is a favorite. He is priced at minus 190, and the comeback on Guskov is plus 165. There's a part of me that wants to bet Krylov here, to be honest. I haven't decided if I'll do it or not. I did think the Reyes fight was extreme, and I bet Reyes, but I thought his approach to the fight was really sketchy. You know, I was talking with Dogfather last night, and like as I was taping it, and he does look fucking wooden as hell in that fight, man. Like he really
he always
his
has,
entry.
Man. His striking's always looked wooden as hell, man.
His striking always has, but he's been a lot more explosion behind it, you know, and he didn't have a lot of explosion behind it against Reyes. Like it was pretty easy for Reyes to outmaneuver him and just line up his shots. But like having said that, I think he's got a very easy path to victory here. Like I think I think Guskov's got some equity to knock Krylov out in the first round in this fight. But if he doesn't do that, I think Krylov very likely overwhelms him on the mat here and probably finds a finish. I think Krylov's got a giant grappling edge in this fight. And I think if Krylov comes out with like the optimal strategy, he should win the fight handily. I have my concerns because we've seen Krylov, you know, fuck around and find out on the feet way too often, many times, you know. Now, it bit him last fight, but like we saw it against Volkan. I think we both bet him there. You know, he got hurt bad early in that fight and lost the first round. And then he remembered father's plan and, you know, kind of took it.
I did not bet him against Volkan, to cut you off there real quick, but I did bet him against Paul Craig.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Krylov finds catastrophe, man. It's like unreal. The guy just finds a way to like meet catastrophe like whenever he loses. Like he's fumbled a lot of bags, you know. He is a perpetual, very easy bags. So, and yeah, like Tim just said in the chat, it's only been 3 months since he got, you know, KO'd viciously, and he had a bad shoulder injury. So I don't know. I feel like the matchup is very good for him on paper here. And, you know, he's a far more tested fighter. He's fought a far better quality of competition. What do you think, Legs?
I mean, it definitely is a great matchup for him, but it just seems like he's very much so on the back nine, like we're talking about. I mean, 3 months removed from that KO. The shoulder injury was really what was keeping him off from that Reyes fight and why he had such a long layoff going into that fight. I mean, stylistically should be a great fight for him. I think the under minus 160, minus 170 could be interesting because, again, captures a lot of equity on both sides. Early KO for Bogdan. I think, like I said, Krylov could finish him in the first round, early second round as well. So, I mean, I think it's an interesting way to look at it. But even if you like the Krylov side, honestly, I think just playing the sub at like plus 250 when we get it on domestics, like it's plus 210 right now. I think we probably get a plus 250, plus 300. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, that's not bad. I don't mind that. Moving on, cool fight here. We got Jose Ochoa coming back off beating Cody Durden. He's taking on Auabaya. Very tightly lined fight here. Current price is pick 'em minus 110, minus 110. What do you think here, Legs?
So I lean the Ochoa side, but though if I bet the Ochoa side, he's just going to get held down for 15 minutes and just look like an idiot. But I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, it's just a huge step up in competition, really, is what I'm getting at, really, on the Ochoa side. I mean, yes, he did knock out Durden, looked great in his last spot. But, I mean, Auabaya, great wrestler, best wrestler he's fought to date. and I think he definitely could have success in that realm. I think it's just going to be a close fight if Ochoa is not finding a finish.
Yeah. I don't really know what to think about it. I was almost positive I'd be playing a Sue and like kind of selling the hype like pre-tape. Post-tape, I don't really know. I just look, if Ochoa can keep this upright, he's gonna butcher a Sue. I think there's very little doubt about that. But the issue is I just don't know enough about Ochoa's grappling. I went deep on it. I felt good enough about his scrambling and submission ability that he wouldn't get controlled by Durden, but I do think the control of Auabaya is a lot better than Durden's is. And I've seen some stuff in Ochoa's defensive wrestling, specifically against Durden, that kind of, I don't want to say freaks me out, but makes me a bit nervous for him. Like, I don't think he's got great hips or particularly great balance when it comes to defending takedowns. And look, he's pretty urgent about trying to work up or be active from bottom, but we don't really have an idea of like how good his get-up game is yet. You know, he got taken down twice by Durden. The first time he did a pretty good job, you know, kind of spinning through the back take attempt and getting on top. But the second time he spent the last minute of the round on bottom, you know, mostly striking off his back. And I don't really like that. So, and I've seen stuff regionally where his submission grappling looks very, very competent. So I feel like I think there's good things I've seen in the tape from Ochoa, and I think there's bad things. And that is enough. Like, not having the certainty around Ochoa's grappling is enough for me to want no interest in him against the guy who's going to try to do one thing and who's actually quite good at controlling guys. I have always thought Asu was a bit overrated, but there's not much in Ochoa's tapes that makes me think he can defend K takedowns in the manner that Cop could. You know, I think he's going to get taken down here. The question is going to be what happens next. And I don't know. I really don't know. So, so to me, that's the entire crux of this fight, right? So, like, it's like max uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, Pick'em seems fine, I think, right?
Right. Like, it's not a bridge I want to jump, you know?
No.
Definitely not. But the big thing I'm struggling with, though, is, like, all of Asu's wins, really. I mean, none of them are really that impressive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and Tim said, I think
low-level guys.
Tim said, I think the second takedown from Durden was a result of Ochoa getting cracked in the brawl. I think that's probably true. But again, it's like we haven't seen him defend like 10, 15 takedowns. Like, the data on how he's going to react to me just isn't there yet. And so I'm pretty comfortable just sitting this one out, you know. But you're right. All of Asu's wins are against lower level guys too. You know, Asu, it's weird because Asu got jammed basically into a fight with Cop off of Nicolau being retarded, if we're being honest. You know, and fumbling that fight. And it's a similar spot where Ochoa was getting a really big step up in competition here. But I am generally bullish on Ochoa and his future, much more so than I am about Asu. So there's that. But I don't know. I'm good with the pass.
Yeah, he just seems like a fun action fighter, really, you know?
Yeah. I think he might be a bit better than that. He's very young. He's very young. Moving on, though, we have got Shara Magomedov taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Current price, Shara's minus 700. The comeback on MAB plus 500. Thought I'd like Barriault pre-tape here, too. Just thinking in my head, you know, a come-forward guy like Barriault against the kicker should be pretty good for him. But I taped it, and I think the line's fine, personally. The issue I have is, first of all, I mean, Shara at space is the much, much better striker, you know. Even inside with the hands, I think Shara's got better hands than MAB. So, like, obviously what he wants to do here is get into the clinch and beat him up. The problem is, and I think this is the crux of the fight and why I agree with the line, Shara's way better in the clinch. You know, Marc-Andre Barriault's a bully in the clinch, but it's not particularly technical. He just tries to grab a single collar tie and beat you up. Shara's going to put him in a plum and just destroy him to the body if he does that with, like, knees and elbows. I just don't think there's anywhere in this fight that Mab is better unless he comes out wrestling hard, which I suppose could be a game plan, but it's never really his game plan. He's not a great wrestler. I also think Shara's got just way better durability at this point. Like, it seems obvious to me that Mab's durability is cracking, whereas Shara seems to have really top level durability. So yeah, I mean, I think Shara, big favorite's fine. Maybe minus 700 is a bit wide. I don't know, but I have no interest in it. What about you?
I do have an interest in targeting some kind of a violence, though. whether that's parlaying that doesn't go at minus 250 where it's at now, or maybe even looking at an alt under 2.5 when that comes out. But yeah, I think Shar finishes MAB, quite frankly, because what MAB is looking to do is come forward, like you mentioned, try to find the clinch. And I mean, I think that's honestly a recipe for disaster against a guy like Shara. Shara probably can easily find a finish with those kicks, spinning attacks. I think it's just going to be a war, honestly, until MAB ends up getting finished.
Yeah, that's fair. Moving on, fun fight. We got Peter Yan taking on Marcus McGee. Current price on Yan minus 340. The comeback on McGee is plus 280. 330 plus 270 is the comeback. What do you think, your legs?
So another huge step up, similar to the Ochoa fight, but though I mean we're looking at McGee at plus 270, plus 280 here against Yan in a 3-round fight. Yan traditionally a slow starter. Like I could see moments where McGee like competes here, though at the same time it's like Yan is the much better striker here. I think he can land takedowns here over McGee as well. Probably has the better cardio as well. So it's tough for me. Like I again want to lean to the McGee side in terms of like where the actual value is on the fight, but I'm fine passing. It's a huge.
Yeah, I think you mentioned an important point. I think Peter Yan is better by a lot everywhere in this fight. By a large margin.
Yeah.
But McGee is good. He's not a bad fighter. It's just that, like, Peter Yan is an elite fighter, like one of the best in the world. But to your point, the 3-round nature of the fight is it's dangerous laying minus 330 on Peter Yan in a 3-round fight. Especially against a guy like McGee who, he's not just going to brawl. The guy, he can do a pretty good job managing range and getting in and out. And we've seen Yan drop a lot of round ones to guys like that in the past. And if you're going to drop round 1, you could drop round 2. Like if I know I'm going into it down a round, or there's a very good chance that he could take off a round and just download his data or whatever, I don't want minus 330. Having said that, God, I'm losing my voice, so I'm sorry, everybody. But having said all of that, I am interested in a Yan 2-3 look, especially with where the over is. I imagine when it gets released on legals, it's going to be big. I think McGee's a decent fighter. Like I said, good boxer. He's fast. He hits hard. But, his cardio looked like it was flagging pretty hard late against Jonathan Martinez. His legs were obviously pretty beat up. Didn't handle calf kicks well. And like Jonathan Martinez, he's a good fighter, but, he's one of the bigger betas at 135. That's mean to say. But like the truth is, he's not an assertive fighter. And like it seemed like McGee was really hanging on for dear life at the end of that fight. Now he's jumping from Jonathan Martinez to Peter Yan, a guy who, like, once Yan does put the car in drive, he does not stop coming forward at you. It is all gas, no brakes, body work, head work, leg work. He just won't stop. And, I was a bit surprised to see the over. Is it still there? When I looked last night, it was minus
50, I think.
Yeah, minus 280 right now.
Yeah.
It seems huge to me, McGee hits hard, and Yan is going to not stop coming forward at the end in the second 2 rounds of this fight. So I'd imagine the Yan 2-3 props are going to be pretty good. I'll be looking at them. I'll probably have a bit on those because I do think, he has a really good chance to break McGee down and finish him on the back end here. But yeah, minus 330, Yan slow starting is enough for me to just avoid it, honestly.
Yeah. So right now the KO 2-3. So KO 2 is 12-1, KO 3 15-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not great, but
no. But yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, we'll have Robert Whittaker taking on Reiner Derritter. Ritter coming off giving Bo Nickel his first O. Current price, the Reaper minus 145. The comeback on Derritter plus 125. What do you think, Lags? Does Derritter have another upset in him?
Personally, I don't think so. I think this is another, you almost have forgot type of a Rob Whittaker main event. And I'm pretty sure we were both on him against
Alaskarov, yeah.
Yes, which was great. But honestly, just going to wait and see where this line ends up going because it seems like there's a lot of Derritter love out the gate, and I get it. But to me, it's just a huge gap in terms of the striking. And I think Derritter's just going to struggle early to get those takedowns. I get his frame is huge, and he can dominate Rob if he does end up getting him down, but I think it's just going to be a struggle to end up getting Rob to the floor. Like, he's not like Khamzat. Like, I think people will look at the Khamzat fight and how easily he did get finished, but like Khamzat's such a much faster starter, much more athletic. Like, he's a tough specimen to deal with early.
Yeah, I really like Rob here. I bet him to win 2.5 units at minus 145.
Nice.
I mean, look, I have been very critical of Derritter since he came to the UFC. I was critical of him before his fight with GM3. I passed there. I did attempt to fade him with Holland. That didn't work out. But I mean, this is a massive step up in competition. And actually, Derritter's the older fighter here. It's I look at the striking here, and it's not even close. Rob's defense is infinitely better. He's way faster, throws in combination way better, picks his shots way better, dangerous calf kicker. Derritter, I think he either needs to land a kill shot on the feet, which he could do. I mean, he could. He does have decent power, and Rob's been hurt before. Or he needs to, back Rob up into either get Rob's back, which I think seems very unlikely. Like looking at how well Rob scrambled with. It's funny because you brought up the Hamzat fight. Rob scrambled really well with him, before he got his jaw broken. He was doing a great job denying the body triangle. He worked up a couple times. Derritter can't bring the physicality that Chimaev can. No. Nor is he anywhere close to as good a wrestler. Actually, I'm pretty certain Rob's the better wrestler of the two, which doesn't mean he couldn't get taken down. Derritter's a big fucker, It's his biggest asset is his size and his reach here, and he has a big reach advantage. But I mean, I think it's going to be, first of all, I think it'll be hard for him to control Rob. Very hard. I do not. I'd be surprised if he gets a body triangle in this fight. Second of all, I think his biggest asset in this fight is likely his clinch work. That's probably the one place where, he can maybe do some damage on Rob, land elbows and knees and whatnot. But Rob's really hard to clinch, man. Like, he is really hard to clinch. He does a really good job digging unders, pulling on the head and getting out of there. He's just a very hard fighter to control. On top of that, we're in the big cage. Rob's movement is very, very good. It's going to be, I think, really, really hard for Derritter to back him up to the clinch. So I think Derritter needs to either get on top. Tim's saying Rob's going to be way smaller, 20 to 25 pounds in the cage. And they're not going to be 20 to 25 pounds apart, dude. Not even close. He wasn't 25 pounds apart.
He'll be smaller, but in terms of
not 20, dude. That's like said. That's like you're saying Derritter's cutting 40 pounds overnight. It's not going to be anywhere near that. It's probably like 8 pounds. Is probably about what it is, which is significant. But I am like, I don't know, man. I just feel I have a hard time seeing Derritter getting more than 1 or 2 takedowns in this fight, especially since his cardio is terrible. There's a huge cardio advantage here, a huge striking advantage. Rob's the better wrestler. He's been fighting like the absolute best of the best of the best, whereas Rene Derritter just beat Bo Nickel. It doesn't matter. And I know Bo Nickel's a good scalp on your resume, huge prospect, but Nickel fought really dumb in that fight, in my opinion. He kept insisting on the clinch and trying to wrestle him, and he just got destroyed in the clinch in that fight. And I don't think it's going to be easy for Derritter to clinch him. And I honestly think Reiner needs probably has to find a finish in the first 2 rounds. If he doesn't do that, he's probably going to get absolutely owned and finished on the back end of the fight. But I'll go a step further and say, I'm not confident in this outcome, but I think there's a lot of scope for Rob just comes out and absolutely dumpsters this guy from the jump, and is just moving around, touching him up, landing heavy shots, and finishes him fairly early. You look at Reiner Derritter, his last MMA loss. Now, granted, Whittaker is a lot smaller than Anatoly Malkin, but when Derritter couldn't get that game going against Malkin and wasn't able to do anything to take him down, he kind of just crumbled and quit. And I honestly think there's a decent chance something like that happens here, where Derritter's unable to secure takedowns and he can't close the distance, and every time he tries to come forward, he's just eating a 1-2, and you end up seeing him just kind of maybe not quitting, but just like a version of Brendan Allen against Sean Strickland back in the day, where it's just like basically target practice for Rob. That's kind of what I think is going to happen, So
yeah, it could definitely happen.
Tim said RDR gained 27.5 pounds from weigh-ins. Yeah, but Whittaker gains like a lot of weight too. I mean, not nearly that much, but Whittaker's not going in the same weight he was on weigh-in day. But yeah, I don't know. I do think there is some equity here for Rob getting knocked out. We know his chin is an issue. It's hard to know where he's at this part of his career. So if it happens, I won't be shocked. If RDR has a moment or two, I won't be shocked. But I think this pure skill level between the two is just massive. I'll give Whittaker or Derritter some equity here, and I'll say Rob should only be like minus 200, but like under 60% implied to me seems crazy. Are you going to take the ride on Rob with me?
Yeah. Yep, that's what I said too. Yep.
And like you said, we had him against Alaskarov, and it's in the same building, baby.
And it's literally the same price.
Yeah, which is crazy. We got reverse CLV on that, actually. I'm wondering if I will here. I am, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. People are very eager to fade Robert Whittaker, man. It's very.
I don't know why, man. Like, I don't know if
I mean, there are guys
Dizzy and like seeing the quick finishes against like Chimaev and like again Duplessis, who's not super technical, ends up breaking him. I get it. He's elite. Rob's elite.
I'd be much more worried about that kind of scenario against someone like a Kopilov, from the lower end of the rankings, who's like very fast and hits pretty hard early in fights. Like that would worry me. But like Derritter is slow as shit, man. Like it's going to be crazy, the difference in speed between the two of them. So yeah, I'm riding with Rob. We'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong, but we've been rolling good here lately. So knock on wood. Hopefully we keep the good vibes rolling here. And yeah, we'll be back probably next Sunday. Next Sunday or Monday. We'll see. Lags now talk this week. I think we'll keep things fluid, and just see how much tape we get through, because obviously we want to do it on Sundays, but we also want to be prepared to do the show. I texted Lags on Sunday and was like, I'm just not going to have time to do tape 5 fights before we go live tonight. So yeah, we'll keep you guys posted. But yeah, guys, thanks for dropping by. Drop a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.